President Buhari inaugurates $1.5 billion Nigeria's first deep-sea port in Lagos. Federal government to harness climate finance through African carbon markets. Monetary Policy Committee to decide on key policy issues as MFLA chairs first meeting of the year 2023. Airport workers suspend strike after reaching agreement with NACO. Plus, Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS breaks 2021 record, collects 10.1 trillion naira in 2022. Details of these and more on Business Express on network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. And we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Leah Kating Babatunde. The Lekki deep-sea port, driven by the Buhari administration's vision of bequeathing a legacy of poverty elimination through the provision of job-creating infrastructure, has been inaugurated. President Muhammadu Buhari performed the ceremony at the commencement of his two-day state visit to Lagos, the center of excellence.
Initiated and completed under the present administration, the West Africa's deepest seaport is estimated to have an aggregate impact of $360 billion over a concession period of 45 years, executed by the federal and Lagos state governments as well as private consortium. The port is expected to realize over $200 billion from taxes, royalties and duties while creating nearly 170,000 jobs. The Lekki Deep Sea Port has amongst other distinctive features such as full automation, thereby positioning it for quick cargo and vessel turnaround. Consequently, the competitiveness of Nigeria's exports, especially agro-allied products in the international market, will be greatly enhanced. So also the forex inflow to enable Nigeria maximize the opportunities inherent in the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
Mr. President, you can see that it's been a total combination of federal government, Lagos State, and the private sector. And we're happy that this is happening in your time, because it all started within your time and it's been completed within your time as well. We're indeed excited that the size of the vessels that will be coming in here could be up to 4 times the size of vessels that are currently built at both Tinkan and Apapa Port. So it's a big, massive infrastructure, and we're indeed excited that in your time something fresh has been birthed into this country. It's going to generate thousands and thousands of jobs directly and hundreds of thousands of jobs indirectly.
I want to say very few words. First, really, this is the engine of the economy, not only for Governor Lagos and also for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Second, really, this is the equity of investment. Mr. President, this is not loan, this is not borrowing, this is investment. We need not to consider about how can we repay the money back. We will collect revenue, taxes from this project.
President Muhammadu Buhari also inaugurated the Lagos Rice Mill at Imota, executed by the Lagos State government in support of the Rice Revolution program of the Buhari presidency. The mill has a capacity to produce 2.5 million metric tons of rice per annum. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who guided the president on tour of the plant, said about 250,000 direct and indirect jobs will be created for Lagosians through its operations.
He's really so delighted
to be here to commission the largest rice mill in the entire sub-Saharan Africa and one of the largest in the world, the Lagos rice mill here in Water. And it's been done because of the agricultural revolution of Mr. President, who when he started his government, he says Nigeria should grow what they eat and they should eat what they grow. We're happy that Lagos is a testament for that. With 2.8 million bags of 50 kg rice per annum, Lagos is ready to support the rice revolution and the food revolution in Nigeria.
President Buhari described the two projects as very much in line with his administration's vision of economic diversification and food security. And before retiring for the day, the Nigerian leader declared open the MRS Best-of Lubricant plant, the 200 million litre plant, first of its kind in West Africa, covering the whole value chain of lubricants, will put a stop to the importation of substandard products, capital flight, and contribute to the generation of foreign exchange for the country through exports.
Thank you, Adam Musambo there. President Muhammadu Buhari has applauded the management of the Federal Inland Revenue Service for repositioning the nation's tax system, thereby sustaining the upward trajectory in revenue receipts for sustainable national growth and economic prosperity. This was when the executive chairman of the service, Mohammed Nami, presented to him the 2022 performance update report, which shows an unprecedented collection of 10.1 trillion naira in tax revenue.
Reforms internally, in which we are able to automate our processes. Now, by June 2021, you will recall that we introduced our tax form marks, which today is a game changer in the FIRS. Our collection continues to improve on an annual basis. Through the tax form marks also, today, you don't need to visit FIRS to be able to do tax clearance certificate. I always share with people that statutorily, you have 2 weeks to apply for and get tax clearance. In the past, it takes even more than that. Today, you can use 1 minute to start processing and getting your tax clearance without necessarily visiting the FIRS.
Companies' income tax contributed 2.83 trillion naira, value-added tax 2.51 trillion naira, electronic money transfer levy 125.67 billion naira, and earmarked taxes 353.69 billion naira. Non-oil taxes contributed 59% of the total collection in the year, while oil tax collected stood at 41% of total. It is the first time that the FIRS will cross the 10 trillion naira mark in revenue collection. Let's now take a break before we get to our main focus for the day. Now, during the last MPC meeting in November 2022, the committee had raised the monetary policy rate MPR to a record high of 16.5% in an effort to tackle rising inflation. Now, will the committee retain the current policy rates given the prevailing fundamentals? To speak on this is Idakolo Bolade, a financial and wealth management expert. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning to you. It is the first meeting of this year, and of course, expectations are high. And so we're wondering, what are the critical factors that will shape the decision of the committee?
Definitely, the state of the economy and its performance in 2022 will definitely be a key factor that will shape the decision of the MPC today. And key and major factor is the inflation rate that has been on the increase all through 2022, except in December when we witnessed a slight easing. So these factors are essentially what the committee members are going to look into to now further decide whether to continue the policy movement or to hold or for a slight increase.
Okay, so perhaps you would speak to us on the issue around the ways and means of borrowing. This also dominated the news in the last 1 month. Do you see these affecting in any way the decisions of the MPC?
Looking at the ways and means borrowing that the federal government has been using, which is a policy tool to borrow from the central bank to fund its operations. But we discovered that of recent, there has been abuse of the policy that has led to excess liquidity in the system, which is why the Naira redesign presently is what is being used as a policy framework to mop up the excess liquidity. And eventually, with what the federal government is trying to do through the National Assembly, we discover that their plans are underway to securitize these ways and means, which will definitely increase the country's debt burden. So looking at that, the NPC also will be looking at the overall effect of an increased debt burden of over 7 trillion on an economy that is struggling presently and is trying to find its feet based on other factors that are affecting it. So it's also one of the things that they have to look into to be able to ensure that there is free flow of economic activities without unnecessarily increasing interest rates that will affect production and lead to high cost of doing business in the economy presently.
We have in recent times seen both the World Bank and the IMF say that the global economy this year is going to have some real drags. And in Nigeria, of course, at every meeting last year when the rates were increasing by notches, the CBN governor kept saying inflation, they need to rein in inflation, it has to be tamed. So we saw, as you had posited earlier, that inflation is actually reduced for the first time in a while, but the reduction, when you compare it to the corresponding period, you can't really say it has actually reduced. It's still on the high side. Yes. So with all this, how do we take a position that would really rein in inflation? Is increasing rates the only way out?
The challenge that we have presently is that based on the slight good news in December concerning the easing of the inflation rate, there is also a projected easing in January, most likely, that will also further reduce the inflation rate. Mm-hmm. So I see the MPC members looking at a situation whereby the office stand that they have taken over the months is really paying off. It has started paying off. So I'm looking at a situation whereby they might want to continue in that line of maybe a slight increase between 25 to 50 basis points, or they might decide to hold to see the gains that will be eventually realized from the policy decisions that are brought about the reduced inflation in December and a likely reduction as well in January. But what that does to the economy presently, which we have been feeling over the past months, is that it has caused an increase in the cost of doing business, caused an astronomically high cost of borrowing, which has affected businesses to the extent that some are started witnessing default in their repayments. So government, the CBN, this policy meeting should also look at the situation that is prevalent on ground to take a position that will not hurt the economy further, especially the productive sector.
Okay. Okay, indeed. And of course, in the coming hours, we will be hearing the CBN speak to that position. I must sincerely thank you, Mr. Idakulu Bolade, for joining me this morning and sharing perspectives on the MPC first meeting for the year 2023.
Thank you so much for having me.
Do have a nice day.
Thank you.
Now, crude oil prices rose slightly in early Asian trade on Tuesday in a market focused on prospects of demand recovery from top importer China and on the global economic outlook ahead of company earnings. Brent crude had risen 5 cents to $88.24 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose 13 cents to $81.75 per barrel. Crude oil prices in fiscal markets have started the year with a rally, as China no longer held back on pandemic controls and has shown signs of more buying, and as traders have worried that sanctions on Russia could tighten supply. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says some of the goals of the federal government in pursuing a just energy transition agenda is seeking, among other issues, adequate climate finance, especially through the African Carbon Market Initiative, ACMI. He spoke while receiving a delegation from the U.S.-based Rocky Mountain Institute, an international think tank involved with the issue of energy transition for the last 40 years. Vice President Osinbajo had earlier virtually participated in a progress meeting of the International African Carbon Market Initiative Steering Committee, where the progress of the plans on broadening the market in Nigeria and Africa had been reviewed. He said the federal government will be working on issues of climate finance, specific projects that will advance the 2060 net zero target of Nigeria and exploring the possibility of electronic vehicles in the country. John Crates, CEO, Rocky Mountain Institute, expressed readiness to partner with Nigeria on the federal government's energy transition plan, since this was a commitment that is shared by the Institute as well. At the meeting of the African Carbon Market Initiative, the steering committee noted that it plans to attain $1 billion in total commitments of buyers before COP28 later this year. Let's now see prices of commodities on the global market. Well, with just 1 week to the January 31 deadline for the old Naira notes to cease be legal tender, a cross-section of people who spoke from around the country have appealed to the Central Bank of Nigeria to extend the deadline, as getting the new notes has continued to be difficult.
The new currency is insufficient. It is very scarce in the market. If you go to the bank, they will still give you the old currency.
The deadline is almost has gone, and that at first is very close because we cannot make it actually.
The federal government meant well and central bank meant well for the populace, more especially the peasant. That's why they introduced this cashless and redesigned currency.
I was happy to have the new notes. I've not seen this 200 naira note before, but today I can see.
We have problem because no new one. The new one is not existing.
It's not in circulation. People are still coming to buy with the old money.
If you see a bunch of 100,000 naira, you only get just two new ones, new notes.
Maybe probably when it's about a few days to go, they will start rejecting the old notes. in the market.
Today, we will not see tomorrow. How are we going to get hold of that new one so that we will leave the old one? We are not even getting hold of the new one. Even if you go to bank today, bank will still give you the old currency.
To extend it so that if the new one is all over the place, then the old one they can go to bank so that you as we the market women, we have already have the new one. So if you take the old one to the bank, you will not feel it. You have another one to go to market.
Yeah, we still collect old note even from the ATM machine itself. As I just said, I went there to withdraw. I still received the old notes.
Since we want to sell, we must collect because the old one is with them. They don't have new one at hand now, but we are managing it towards this week. After this week, we are stopping it.
Actually, it's not all. I feel happy.
And confirm that this morning I'm able to withdraw the new Naira notes from the ATM, though not without challenges. The challenges we have is that I cannot withdraw more than 40,000 in a day.
This is my first time and I was shocked when I saw the guy on the other ATM. I did not put it to 200. He said no, it's a new note. I was like, wow. So it's good and I've collected it now. And I'm happy.
Hello, deposit money banks. We hope the story will change before the end of today. We move to the capital market where the Nigerian exchange closed Monday's trading on positive amidst buy interest and sell-offs as bulls dominated proceedings and drove up the broad market. The old share index appreciated by 0.12% to close at 52,657.69 points. In the same vein, market capitalization grew by 18 billion naira to close at 28.681 trillion naira. Global Market Update is next.
European markets are heading for a higher open this Tuesday, with investors awaiting the latest flash purchasing managers index data from the Eurozone in January. Markets in Asia traded higher as Lunar New Year holidays were observed in most of the region. The Nikkei 225 rose 1.46% to end its session at 27,299.19, while markets in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Korea, Malaysia and Singapore are closed for a holiday. U.S. stock futures were largely flat on Tuesday morning as investors looked to continue a strong start to the week during a busy stretch of corporate earnings. Futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 0.04%. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures were each lower. In Africa, South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 opened positive by 0.49%, while Namibia resumed negative. Others are yet to post figures. Boss said able Business Express.
And this is where we end this episode of the program. Business Express returns on Wednesday at 3 p.m. But don't forget, of course, that you have barely 1 week to swap your old currencies for the new one. So don't keep them at home. And of course, for the women like me, if you have your hidden currencies in your house, go break that kolo or your asusu, bring out that money and change it, because it's going to be useless by January 31. And we'll be bringing you all these updates in a couple of hours. The Central Bank Governor, Godwin Emefiele, will be addressing the world on the outcomes of this very first meeting that has had so much drama on its back. And NTA will be bringing that live to you. My name is Leah Katungbaba. Today, have a wonderful day and God bless Nigeria.